Welcome to another edition of In the Press Box. I'm Todd Bensel, and joining us, our regular panel, Big E, Eric Fouts, Kim Schenkel, and Coach Nate Moore from the Massillon Tigers. And welcome to the show, guys. And Coach Moore, what a game. Well, I guess the only word I could say was wow, 49-0 over Glen Oak. Your thoughts about what you saw Friday night?
Yeah, it was a good game. Played well, but I mean, we have to move on from that, just like as if we were on the other side of it. So you know, we're already preparing for Warren. And, we have a big test this week, but proud of the performance.
You guys kind of saw this coming. You both picked Massillon, of course, but you large margins. I think your margin was what, 28, Eric?
Yeah, I got the proverbial look from Coach after we went off the air. Thanks, appreciate that.
But obviously you guys saw something in this matchup. What was it?
Well, I just think that Massillon's depth. Again, I'm going back to the whole experience thing with the amount of kids that we've got coming back. I understand Coach Moore's philosophy. You got to take it 1 week at a time. I get it. I look at it coming from a fan point of view. I obviously look at it a little different than he does, but I don't think Warren's going to be able to hang with us either. But that's my opinion. So I'm not going to call a score this week, but no pressure.
Kim, what surprised you more? The fact that, because these games are traditionally very tight, the fact that Massillon rolled up 49 points or pitched the shutout? What was more of a surprise to you?
I looked at the shutout as the biggest thing. I mean, because at any time, and there was a couple times in the game too, that if they would have hit maybe a receiver downfield, they would have maybe scored or did some other things. But we just totally took them right out of the game. And, what happened there early in the game with their quarterback, then they were kind of just like stuck in mud the rest of the ball game. But at any time, they got athletes down the road. They're gonna score some points in some games.
Coach, I'd be remiss if we don't talk about the ground attack. Now you've got three guys in there that are rotating, doing a great job, Jameer Thomas and Zion Pfeiffer, and then Marcellus Blake. Talk about maybe not only the running game, but what the offensive line's doing to open some of those holes.
Yeah, our offensive line played very, very well. And I think we got everything going with attacking the whole width of the field. We got our tag screens going a little bit, and there's a three-play scenario where we didn't call a tag screen and we just blocked on the outside and had some really nice blocks out of our outside receivers. The next play, they blitzed the same linebacker off the edge, and we hit the tag screen for about 15 yards. And then the next play, they took the same and put them out and went 3-over-2, and that was the first one we took for 53 yards. So a lot of stuff going on in there, but really good job execution on the outside to pull those guys out. Good play calling by our coordinators and good execution by our offensive line.
As you game plan for any opponent with the running game as good as it is, do you pretty much have kind of a formula in your mind who's going to get most of the carries? You kind of play it by ear as the night goes on, or walk us through that a little bit as far as the.
Yeah, I mean, Jameer's our number one back. I mean, there's no question
Right.
about that. So, how's his gas doing? Right, as we're going through the game, I mean, that's really what it's all based off of. And the other guys, good running backs, bring a lot to the table. But it's all based off of how Jameer's doing, because it takes a lot out of you when you're carrying the ball and you're taking hits, especially the way we run the football. So we just want to be conscious of that and keep him fresh as we can throughout the course of the game.
Eric, your thoughts on a ground game that now has 538 yards rushing in 2 games. They're averaging about 7.5 yards a carry.
Well, I have to giggle a little bit because I wish you guys could have heard Joe Palmisano call this game. He is a riot. He is. I love Joe to death, and he was just, I bet Coach Moore is just over there just jumping up, doing cartwheels in his mind. He's not showing it, but I know he is. And I bet Coach Moore's got a big smile on his face, and it doesn't even look like Glen Oak come to play. He goes, and he told Dan Pelver, Dan says, I just think Massillon's really that good. And Joe says, I think you're right, Dan. But yeah, I think it's, all in all, it was I think a good game plan, and I just think that, Glen Oak's a little down, and, it happens. It's when you have a lot of new kids, and, these things happen.
Kim, how big was it to be able to get some of these younger kids in, especially in the second half? They got a lot of reps. We talked about Marcellus Blake being able to play more, and just a lot of the guys that got in there and played well.
Exactly, all the guys, the receivers, defensive players, and that was a good thing because I come to find out that the JV game was canceled with them on Saturday. So that made it like their JV game they got to play in the third and fourth quarters Friday night. So, worked out very well.
Coach, one last thing on this game. We'll move to Warren, but when Richardson, their quarterback, went down, then you got a young guy in Cook coming in there, a different style. Did that pose any problems for you, just trying to react to what he was going to do, or had you pretty much game plan for him as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to call our defense, and I mean, defense is about being disciplined and execution and being in the right place at the right time. And so, it really shouldn't matter what quarterback is in there. No concern for the backup, concern for the kid. Heart goes out to him, and hope he heals up. But
Yeah, tough break
yeah.
this early in the season too, and they had some big plans for him this year. Hope he gets well quick. Well, we'll segue into Warren with the quarterback position. So let's talk a little bit about Elijah Taylor, the quarterback for Warren. What problems does he pose?
He's a young guy, has good size. Looks like he was more comfortable in the offense week 2 versus week 1, and that's usually how it goes with a sophomore. Is they're going to improve by leaps and bounds as you go through the season. They gain more and more experience. So he has a little bit of an arm. He can throw it. Looks like they're trying to find their rhythm offensively. Who exactly they want to be. But I think he'll be a good quarterback in the future.
They've got a back in K'Ron Adams that has numbers kind of similar to Jameer's right now. I think when I last looked, he had over 300 yards rushing, 313, and 3 touchdowns, 7.2 yards a carry. Have you had a chance to see much film on him?
Yeah, he's a very good running back. He ran for 200 plus on us last year. He has at least one Power 5 offer that I know of. I think he's an offer from Rutgers. So he's a very well thought of running back, very good player. And we'll certainly have our hands full with him.
Kim, Warren Harding's always kind of a big deal for Massillon. It's next to McKinley. It's one of the bigger traditions. We're looking at a Warren team this year that has played some pretty solid defense in the last 6 quarters. They actually shut McKinley out the last 2 quarters of that game, and then shut out their opponent last week. So there's 6 quarters of scoreless ball against them. So what kind of problems does that Warren defense pose to you?
Well, I'm sure this is going to be like their Super Bowl. I mean, they're in a conference, but to play Massillon, and those kids hear about Massillon year in and year out, that's the game to get up for. I think their defense will come in, and, they're going to try to hit us hard, but, the team, if you look who they played, Cleveland Rhodes, I don't think they're a very, very powerful team up in Cleveland. And McKinley, they were able to shut them out in the second half and do a good job by cutting down their, playmakers. So, we take care of business, we'll be okay.
Eric, your thoughts on this year's version of Warren Harding?
Well, Warren's Warren. I mean, it's, it goes back to the, 84 and when I played, and back in the late 80s where, it's raining sideways and you're standing in mud that deep, and,
That's football, right?
Yeah, they call it pit for a reason over there at Mollenkoff, but, it's Warren's Warren. They're never going to change. It doesn't matter the name. It's it's still the same atmosphere with them. They're still going to have the same mindset. It's a football tradition town. They're big. They support their team, and they got some good athletes. Warren's always got good athletes, so it should be another classic Massillon Warren game slugfest.
Coach, I know you're busy week in and week out game planning, but do you ever get a chance maybe just to kind of gather the moment and say, like, wow, this is a traditional game does this week mean a little extra because it's Warren Harding, because it's a team that's got a rich tradition playing Massillon?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, we talked to the kids about all those things, and you know, the last time Warren Harding visited Massillon, it didn't go well for us. So, you know, I expect the kids to have a little chip on their shoulder personally going into this game with Warren Harding as well.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other area teams last week and how they did. I'll leave this open to anybody who wants to comment. Any surprises, or do you feel like any teams that kind of righted the ship a little bit last week? I'm thinking maybe in particular, like Jackson got a victory, Perry squeaked out a win. Any comments on any of those games, guys?
Well, I look at Northwest. I mean, they played another good game. You know, they're 2-0, and this week they play a New Philadelphia team that's 0-2. So, you know, they have a good shot of going 3-0. And East Canton 2-0. That you know, they got a tough game this week, but you know, maybe we can get another Star County team that'll be undefeated like the Tigers.
Eric, talk a minute about Perry and Central. You know, Central's been involved in two crazy games at the end.
Man.
They won one and lost one kind of the same way, but what does that say about Perry and Central this week, the fact that that game went down to the wire? Both pretty good teams, you think, this year?
Well, I mean, I think they're, you know, I said that a couple years ago, too. I worked that Perry Central game. I was on the med unit watching that game when Perry went to the state semifinals 2 years ago, and they were pathetic. And it was early in the season. They both looked terrible, and I said, if either one of these teams win 5 games,
I remember that.
it'll be a miracle.
I remember
They
you
looked
saying
terrible, both
Yeah.
of them. I mean, it was turnover after turnover after turnover, and boy, what a game! You couldn't ask for much more, man. At Battle of 13th Street, that was a good one. But,
Central's becoming like the cardiac kids here with the way they
Yeah,
finish the games, like the old Browns of 1980. So, yeah, so we're looking for big things probably for both teams this year, you think, right?
oh, I think so. I think Central's not going to lose many football games this year. I think Central's my sleeper.
Okay. Well, we are in the press box. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Kim's going to talk about the contest, and then we're going to get into some college ball, some NFL ball, and I don't think you're going to be hanging your head this year, Eric. Your Cleveland Browns, there's some optimism. We're going to talk about it. You're in the press box. I just want to make sure I can see the clock. And we are back in the press box. And Kim, why don't you tell us about the trivia contest? What's a little different this week?
Yeah, we're taping this on Monday night so we can air this with some scheduling things we had. So don't forget to come down here, put your answer in the box. It was, how many wins does Massillon have over Canton McKinley for last week? Put it in the box. Then we'll pick next week 2 answers correctly. This week's question will be, Massillon's last game played in the Akron Rubber Bowl was against who? So write your answer down, bring it on down. We'll separate them out.
I know that answer.
You're
fill out the
ineligible.
little sheets of paper here we have, and you'll win a gift certificate from the TIG Grill. And Coach Moore will pick the winner. So stop on down. It's aired live, the show, on Thursday nights. You can sign up in here, and like to see your answers in the box. So thank you very much.
All right. It's the last opponent at the Rubber Bowl for the Tigers. All right. Thank you. All right. We're going to segue now into college, and we'll talk about Ohio State. Coach, did you get a chance to see the Buckeyes this week?
I did.
And your thoughts on what you saw? They rolled up a pretty big number.
Yeah, I mean, looked really good offensively, obviously, and you know, need to take some better angles defensively. There's some holes there.
How about you guys? Start with you, Eric.
I was four-wheeling all day Saturday in Southern Ohio. I had no reception. I was telling everybody I had no reception. I couldn't watch them. I couldn't listen to them. So whatever you say, I believe you.
Okay, we're going to let Kim talk about it then.
Hey, I had a great seat, man. A kid brought a TV to Hartville where I was up there Saturday. We watched the whole game on a big screen TV at the Hartville Flea Market.
There you go.
And I was really impressed with everything. That they seem to be moving pretty good.
You know, as you look at the Buckeyes schedule, and I'm picking 4 games that could be challenges, and I'd like to get your opinion on who do you think might be the toughest opponent. Week 3 is coming up pretty quick, is the TCU game. That's at TCU. Then week 5 is at Penn State, and week 10 is at Michigan State, and then week 12 they're home against Michigan. Which of those 4 games do you think, I'll start with you, Coach, poses the biggest problem for Ohio State this year?
At Michigan State seems to be traditionally a tough place for the Buckeyes, and Michigan State always plays the Buckeyes tough, especially at home. I'd take that game.
Okay. Kim?
I'd have to go with Coach. Michigan State, they always seem to, when that game's at their place, they seem to step up a notch and play at the Buckeyes tough.
Is it a sweep, or are you going with another one?
I agree. I mean, if I would say if Wisconsin was on their schedule, no matter where they play Wisconsin always seems to be a thorn in their side. But up with their in East Lansing, it's trouble.
I got to say, I'm a little surprised because, of course, the national media is pushing the TCU game, but Penn State, and no threats from Michigan this year, huh?
You know, I mean, traditionally Penn State, I mean, if you look at Penn State the last couple of years, they've kind of been one-dimensional with Saquon Barkley. I mean, let's face it, he was their team. I mean, they did have some defense, but let's face it, 90% of their offense was garnered around him. You got McSorley back there, I think, is the junior quarterback, but I still think Michigan State is going to be the tougher of the two, and Michigan, well, you know.
You even said the word. I'm shocked.
That team up north. Sorry. That's terrible.
Okay, so the Buckeyes then, big win, 77-31 last week, and now we are going to move on to the NFL. And I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to start with the AFC. Kim's home team, I might as well call them the New England Patriots. That's your team. Is there anybody in the AFC that you guys think can challenge New England this year? Because when you look at the NFC, there's a lot of good teams. In the AFC, it's kind of like New England in this tier, and then the next tier is a couple other teams. Do you guys sense anybody this year that may sneak up on the Patriots? Coach?
You know, I'm really far out of the loop on the NFL stuff. I'm going to pass.
Oh, you're going to pass. Okay. All right. How about you, Kim?
Well, I look for our biggest challenge is to be from
Our biggest. Did you hear that? Okay.
our biggest.
Like you're sitting in his living room with him.
They are. I got to get back to them.
Bill's on line 1.
Jacksonville, the Steelers, and possibly the Houston Texans, even though we play in week 1. But those are, I think, are our biggest challenges.
Okay. What about you, Eric?
You know, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but it is what it is. I mean, until, you know, Big Ben retires, and it's all going to hinge on whether or not Le'Veon Bell signs, and whether he decides to sit out the season or whatever he's going to do. You can't count Pittsburgh out. I mean, my goodness, you got Antonio Brown, you got Juju Smith-Schuster. They probably have the best receiving core in the league. And then Big Ben is elusive as always, and Le'Veon Bell is just a stud. So I think Pittsburgh, and I like Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is right there. They were a quarter away from getting to the Super Bowl last year. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to come down to those three. I really do. It's going to be possibly the same game between Pittsburgh and Jacksonville as it was last year. It very well possibly could come down to that.
Any sleeper teams in the AFC?
Baltimore?
Raiders.
Chargers.
I don't know about the Raiders now.
They lost Khalil Mack.
Yeah, but but you know, they I don't know. For some reason, something's just telling me that they're gonna. John Gruden, man, I tell you, the guy knows how to coach offense, and if he can get a couple breaks, you know, and get lucky on a couple things, they could be making some noise.
All right, next question for you guys. Staying with the NFL, and we're going to take your guy Tom Brady out of the equation. Okay. Give me, and this is open to anybody. Give me the one quarterback that's most valuable to his team. That if he was gone this year, the team would take a nosedive.
Aaron Rodgers. Packers.
Any other thoughts?
I would say Aaron Rodgers, and then secondly, I think Baltimore Ravens.
And Coach, you said you didn't get to see much NFL, but
I would have gone Aaron Rodgers.
okay.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good
Good pick,
consensus
good
pick. Yeah. How are your Bengals looking this year?
I really have no idea.
That's all right. But you're still a fan, right? You're still rooting for him?
Technically, yes.
Technically, okay, there
Yeah.
you go. All right, one last thing before we leave the NFL, before we go to true or false. Let's get, from Eric and Kim, let's get preseason picks for the Super Bowl. Line them up.
Oh, man.
And I'll chime in on this one, too.
Oh, boy. Oh, my.
I'm gonna go with the Patriots,
Shocker.
and I'm gonna go with the Packers.
Okay, Patriots, Packers.
Oh, my. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna say Jacksonville and Atlanta.
Okay. And I'm going to go with the Patriots and the Saints.
Ooh,
I kind of like Drew Brees and company this
Good
year.
man. He's on board.
Okay. He paid me to say that. All right, true or false? This must be your night, Kim, because everything's revolving around your guys. These are all Baker Mayfield true or falses. Okay, here we go. Round the table we go. True or false? Baker Mayfield will be the Browns' starting quarterback at least 8 of the 16 regular season games this year. Coach?
Yes. True.
I'm gonna say false.
false. He better not.
Well, and there's
Or I'm going to the 480 bridge.
Coach,
False.
with Coach saying true, there's probably 3 scenarios this could happen. One is that there's an injury. We hope that doesn't happen to Rod Taylor. The other one is the fact that the Browns just decide about midway through we're gonna start grooming him. Or the third one might be the fact that Tyrod just not playing well, and they need to put him in there. So under those scenarios, you're thinking he's got at least a shot to play half the games.
Yeah, I really like Baker Mayfield. I think it was a good pick. I think they might have been able to get him a little bit later, but I think it was a good pick. And I think he's going to win the team. I think he's got that type of personality, yeah, I don't think it'd be a shock to see him starting games.
He's already become a fan favorite. The jerseys are selling, and he's well liked. Okay, second true or false in the Baker Mayfield sweepstakes here. True or false? Baker Mayfield will be a Cleveland Brown for at least 5 years. Eric,
Oh, true. Absolutely.
even though most of our quarterbacks don't stay that long.
True.
Okay,
Oh, yeah. True.
Kim,
I say true.
Coach.
True, I think this one's going to stick.
All right. Last Baker Mayfield, true or false? Baker will finish in the top 3 in the voting of Rookie of the Year this year. Coach?
False.
False.
False. He better not.
Eric has that same caveat for everything Baker Mayfield.
I don't want him playing. I want him sitting learning.
Okay.
With the track record we've had with quarterbacks, he needs to sit, watch, and then next year we'll think about it.
All right, let's go to the picks. After you had a 2-game lead in week 1, not to panic, Kim won the week, but he only won by 1 game. He was 8-3, you were 7-4. So Kim, you trail by 1 game now.
Okay.
So it's coming down here. It's a big week.
Okay.
And we'll start with you, Kim. Jackson, Boardman.
I'm gonna take Boardman.
I think Boardman.
Eric, Dalton, Fairless. What's going on with the Bulldogs this year? They lost to
don't know.
Tulsa and then won big last week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dalton.
I'm gonna take Fearless.
Kim, Strongsville, Central Catholic. Is this going to be another down-to-the-wire game?
Strongsville's a very good Division I team. I'm gonna take them.
I would say Strongsville.
Eric, Chippewa, Tuslaw.
Tuslaw.
I'll take Tuslaw too.
All right, we're going to go to the NFL real quick. The big game, actually, this is the kickoff the night this airs, Atlanta, Philadelphia. That's a rematch of playoffs last year. Who do you like, Kim?
Man, I know there's some revenge in this game. I'm gonna go with Atlanta in a very close game. I mean, a lot closer than even that championship game was.
Definitely Falcons. Philadelphia doesn't know who they're going to
Wow,
start.
so you're
quarterback.
both picking against. And actually, I like this pick because Atlanta's schedule is very favorable. If they can win this first game, they could reel off about 4 or 5 in a row and be in a good spot. That's interesting. San Francisco and Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I'm gonna take Minnesota now that Jared McKinnon's out for the year.
And how far do you think Minnesota can go this year?
I think they'll be possibly playing in the championship game.
Really?
Yes.
I think they're that good too.
Okay. Are the 49ers, was that just a mirage last year when they won all those games with Garofalo, or are they,
Well,
they going to be good?
Yeah, I mean they'll be better. Anytime you have Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan running the offense, I mean you're going to have a bunch of wrinkles. But yeah, I think they might surprise a few people. But I think
Okay, all right, Eric, we're going to go Kansas City and the LA Chargers.
Chargers.
Can't get used to calling them LA.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
And Kim, Cincinnati and Indianapolis.
I look for the Bengals to win this game.
Coach got a
Bengals.
smile there. All right, you guys, that
Bengals.
was good. All right, here's one. Eric, we'll start with you. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Can the Browns win an opener? They've only won one since they came back in '99. And can they beat the division rival Steelers? And can you shake your head no any more than you're doing right now?
It's so hard being a Browns fan. It's so frustrating and watching them. It's just you want them to win, but you try to will them to win, and it just doesn't work. I can't. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I just can't take them. I can't do it. I want to have to say Pittsburgh.
Kim?
I think it'll be closer than years past, but I think Pittsburgh will win. I think Big Ben and Antonio Brown will be the difference, plus their defense line.
You know, a lot of the national media is picking this as one of the more interesting games this year because of what the turnaround is in Cleveland.
And it could be. I mean, it could get that way, but week one, man, come on.
All right, finally, Kim, Warren at Massillon.
I'll take the Tigers
Close?
for a while,
Okay.
and then I think our depth and just that we got too much all around. Offense, defense, special teams.
Eric?
Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up. The Tigers got too many horses. Not so fast, my friend. Tigers in a blowout. And I'm not putting the pressure on Coach Moore this week. I'm not getting the eye roll by saying, gee, thanks, no pressure. Tigers big.
All right. Well, there you have it, Coach. Thanks for being with us again. Good luck against Warren Harding. And don't forget to stop down at the TIG Grill. Great food and get in the contest. We'd love to see you down here. We'll see you next time in the press box.